What's up, guys? I'm your host, RotKorpse,
And I'm Rich.
and this is Morbid Curator Podcast. On this episode, we have a returning guest, Brandon Ingram, founder of Dismay Comics and writer for Dismay Comics. How you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. Yeah, it's been a busy year, even though this will be one comic I'm putting out this year. I started doing conventions this year, so
Hell yeah, man.
been busy.
Yeah, dude. I've been seeing your posts and everything, and it seems like your Kickstarter's doing pretty well and stuff.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Really well. Thank you. Yeah.
I don't know if you've met my dad, Rich. He's been on the last couple episodes. He's my new co-host and stuff. So that's
nice.
my dad, Rich. We have like the same mindset with
Nice
everything.
to meet you.
So it's real cool. I've been, dude, I was looking. It's been 9 months since the last time we talked. It doesn't even seem like it's been that long.
I gotta get the ball rolling if it's taking 9 months for me to put out another book.
No, you're good, man. Nah, I respect it. You got Tales from Town City, man, #1. How's that?
Yeah,
How's that been going with
going good.
The Kickstarter? I know you had a goal. You've been reaching like some of your goals, right? Like it's
we hit our funding goal. The funding goal was $1,000. I usually, compared to other comics, I'll set my funding goal kind of low, mostly because I just like the comics are done. Like in terms of
right.
Working with artists and stuff, I pay out of pocket for that. The comics are completely done before I launch a Kickstarter. So once the Kickstarter launches, it's completely done. I don't have to worry about like, oh, will I finish the book? Won't I finish the book? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's good to go to where at that point, the funding is like almost like a pre-order type thing. Like, hey, if people want the book, like Kickstarter is almost like a pre-order option. This is how you get the book, because it's the only way to get the book online. Right. As well as it's my way of funding for printing for those that back the Kickstarter, as well as like conventions and having extra books for add-ons for future Kickstarters and stuff. So
what conventions have you been to? And you said you went to a couple, or?
Yeah, I live in the Southeast, and like the part of the Southeast I live, it's hard to find ones like within an hour from me.
Right.
Like, I live like near Pensacola, Florida, and I've went to the biggest one I went to was Fan Expo New Orleans, which was a great experience, and ultimately I did pretty decent at. But those big conventions for indie comic guys are tough because I get it as well. It's like people admissions like $50 at those places for one day, as well as you're going there like specifically that week. They had like some big people. They had Sam Raimi was there. They had Eddie from Stranger Things season 4, a whole bunch of other big people as well. Like, so people pay $50 for admission. Then they're paying like at least $100 for autograph and photo with the celebrities they're there for, because that's the reason you go to those big shows is those celebrities. So after that, like you're kind of tight on cash after that, and I get that. I've been to cons before, I get it. So
right.
So it's iffy on how you'll do as an indie comic creator at those type of cons, but the smaller conventions, I've been to a few smaller conventions. I've been doing like great at those because you don't have to compete with Sam Raimi or
right.
Sam Wise from the Lord of the Rings. You don't have to compete with these guys. So there's more eyes on you. There's less vendors and stuff at those smaller ones. A lot of people seeing the books, noticing the books, the best thing is like having some of these books that are like eye-catching type covers.
Yeah.
Do too.
Yeah, like, which it is.
Someone will walk by, they'll do like a double take kind of gets them there. But yeah, they do very well. I'd say the thing I've done the best at, free comic book day.
Oh yeah.
Because I go to my local comic shop for that, and this was my first time this year. And I was just there from 10 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., 5.5 hours. Within that time, almost sold $500 worth of books. And that's just comics. Comics at $6 a piece, as well as like stickers and bookmarks at like $1, $2. Like those free comic book day things.
Yes, that is awesome, dude.
It booms there. But yeah, small conventions, free comic book day did great. Great time at Fan Expo. But yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah, I seen are you gonna try to start getting some of your books into different shops and stuff? I seen like there's that bundle going.
Yeah. So in the past, I've had like the local shops around me. Like whenever I've printed a book, I'll put it in their shops. In the past, the comic shops that are near me, I usually put them in their shops. And yeah, that bundle is kind of like all over the United States, outside of just like little area that I'm within. And in past Kickstarters, I usually have 2 or 3 shops that will get that bundle. It's just it's cool to see. It's almost a surreal experience for me, just seeing like, oh, like this comic shop in California has like 10 of my books on their rack.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
It's really cool to see.
Yeah, it's really cool seeing you. Like, I know you said that you've only done one book or whatever, but it's cool that you're still like pursuing your dream. And I really respect independent writers and artists, anything like that, and just to keep following your dream and stuff. And I definitely see that with you, and I respect it, man. Just keep on doing it. You want to tell the listeners a little bit about your new book?
Yeah. So the book I've got right now is Tales from Town City #1. And best way to describe it is kind of like golden age superhero dark comedy kind of. It's an anthology series. There's 3 different stories in this issue. And to kind of get the tone, I first want to mention it's a spin-off of another series that I've written. Issues 1 and 2 are out for that, called The Gallows Man.
Yep.
It's a spin-off of that, but you don't have to read The Gallows Man to enjoy Tales from Town City. Tales from Town City can be read by itself and enjoyed.
Yep.
But Gallows Man, the best way to describe it is like Adam West 1960s Batman mixed with Inglorious Bastards. Like it's that feel where it's the fun campiness of Adam West Batman, but that crazy over the top violence, because it's set in the 1940s. Gallows Man is beating up and killing Nazis, all while he's doing like the cheesy Adam West jokes, and having that like fun jovialness of Adam West Batman. So it's a fun time. So I mentioned that because Tales from Town City is a spin-off of that, and it follows the minor characters within the Gallows Man. Because like the first story with Tales from Town City, it's 2 homeless villains that were introduced in the Gallows Man, and it's these 2 homeless villains trying to. No, you're good. You're good. It's these 2 homeless villains trying to use expired coupons at a convenience store. And one of them has hypnotism powers, but very, very weak hypnotism powers. It's just a fun, silly time. Second story is a mortician that's trying to make sense of these dead villains' names. Like he's incinerating these villains all while he's talking about like, okay, your name makes sense. Your name's the Frog. You're dressed as a frog. Makes sense. Checks out. Your name, however, like you're called Walrus. You don't resemble a walrus at all. Like,
he's just like
I hear you waddle like a penguin. Like maybe that would have been a more fitting name. You got a whiskery mustache though. I guess it checks out. And just another villain, just roasting these villains, both in speech and literally. With no one around, he's just losing his mind over these names. And the last story within it is Fierce Pets. Now, I want to mention for the listeners, PETS is an acronym. It stands for Precise Ecosystemic Tactical Squad. For comic fans out there, kind of harkening back to like the Wildcats days, like the covert action teams of like the 90s. And within this story, the basic synopsis is a team of super animals go and slaughter poachers. Their mission is to go and slaughter poachers. And it's gruesome, it's violent, it's funny. Like
Dude, it
What I
reminded.
want with this book is just fun and funniness.
That's what the Fierce Pez reminded. You ever seen Happy Tree Friends?
Yes.
Dude,
Yeah.
that's what it kind of
Yeah.
reminded me of. Like it's just
yeah.
cute
Oh,
little
yeah.
cuddly,
Yeah.
thing, and the next thing you know, it's just pure slaughter.
Yeah, I remember. Gosh, thinking about it, I remember watching Happy Tree Friends back in like middle school.
Yeah, man, it's
There's a
been like
website. I think there was a website called like Mini Clip. Like they had like video games, but they also had like
yeah.
videos you could watch and stuff. I remember watching Happy Tree Friends there. So yeah, it's in that realm of the Happy Tree
Yeah, when I was
Tree
reading
Friends
it, I
realm.
was just like, dude, this is so crazy. Like, it's so funny. And that's how Happy Tree Friends was. It was like hilarious because it was just
Oh
like,
yeah,
la, 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 like some
like
cute
these
little,
cute woodland creatures in there.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but just
And,
over the top violence.
tinfoiled, hypnotism, that was
Sorry, I'm
awesome
trying to
too.
wipe something off my seat.
Oh, you're good. That reminded me, you ever seen Fanboys? It's got,
Oh yeah.
where they like go on a trip to like Lucasfilm
Lucas
They
Ranch.
go
Ranch.
to the farm.
Yeah.
Ranch,
They're trying to break
Yeah.
in. You
Well,
see the
one
episode
part he
one.
was like trying to do the force, and he's like, "You will take your shirt off," and like, she kept like denying it, but it was just like when he was trying to get the coupon to to not be
like
expired.
that failed hypnotism.
Yeah, that was so funny, dude. Yeah, I really dug it. I really like the my dad hasn't read the Dismay Avenue yet, but I'm gonna get him hip to it and stuff because I really like that like psychological horror of it and stuff like that.
Yeah. Thank you.
But I read this one.
Yeah.
And that with the pets. Dude, I was sitting there. I think you're next to me when I was reading it and stuff. I just cracked up laughing
Thank you.
with the one scene with the bats on the dude's face, and he puts the gun up and blows
shoots himself.
Dude, I'd laugh so hard.
Yeah, dude, that shit was so funny.
Yeah, I edited like a 40-second like TikTok trailer around that whole scene.
Mm-hmm.
It was like when they're charging at each other, and then it's just like the chaos. I
Mm-hmm.
edited a TikTok video where like it was the panels, and like every 2 seconds it was a new panel showing, and I had like happy ukulele music playing in the background while this carnage is going. It's just a fun little thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Was there was there something that like inspired you to do like the more darker humor kind of thing, or was it just kind of like a random thought that you had to do, or were you inspired by something?
It was kind of there's a ton of inspirations. It was ultimately like to keep in line or keep in tone with the Gallows Man, because the Gallows Man has like a lot of dark humor within it that's funny, like over the top stuff, like mannequing or puppeteering like a dead body to throw off henchmen and stuff. There's all kinds of other stuff in the Gallows Man, but to kind of keep in line with that tone that is in the Gallows Man. But yeah, like I like all aspects of comedy. Like I love stand up, I love movies, all kinds of stuff. When it comes to like stand up, like I love like people like Norm Macdonald. Like Norm Macdonald is one of my favorite comedians. I say he is, like, yes, he's dead, but like just listening back to those old stand-up tapes, it was not even the stand-up tapes as well. Like he did like almost like the radio plays kind of. He had a whole album that was basically radio plays. It's hilarious. And he has like some dark humor in his stuff, as well as like other stand-up comedians, other movies that have dark humor. Not saying I'm all about dark humor, but like when it's
trust me,
well,
we're on that side. Same.
Yeah, we're right.
We dig it too, man. One of my favorite things that you do, that you've done in a lot of your short stories, is like the reverse roles of stuff. Like I remember in the Dismay Avenue when it was like the trees were having parts of people in the in the fireplace, or like there was
alternate reality where it was humans and trees were switched, where like you had trees chopping down humans, and you had trees like building tree houses, but it's made out of human bones.
There was like a lumber yard. but it was like
a boneyard instead of a lumberyard. Yeah. And there's
Dude, I gotta read
trees
that one.
protesting. There's trees protesting at the Capitol, like save the humans, like stuff like that. Just
that's
random
so awesome.
little stuff. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I love that kind of thing because it kind of puts a whole different perspective on life in a way. You know what I mean? Because it's funny, but it's also like, you know what? That's kind of right. Like there's, we are cutting down trees and doing stuff that we do every day, but we don't really think about. Like, what if the roles were reversed? You know?
Or with the animals and the poachers.
And the poachers
yeah.
That's the thing is like ultimately with all my books, specifically like Gallows Man and Tales from Town City, you can just read it and have a fun time and not think too deep on it. But if you do want to think deep on it, there are some stuff like the Gallows Man ultimately is like hyperization of desensitization to violence because it's that whole world. It harkens to like today where like we are very much desensitized to violence, as well as specifically the golden age of comics where like you had superheroes or not even called superheroes, but like these people that were like killing muggers and just killing all these people in the comics, and you had like little 5-year-old reading it like, yeah, I want to be like him. Yeah, go. This dude rules. Like, Mom, I want to be so and so. And so it's kind of like taking that and like hyperizing it to where you have Town City in the Gallows Man, where it's this whole city, this whole world that's like like you have a radio announcer in the Gallows Man. It's like, the Gallows Man and Newsboy, they hung the frog out to dry today. They got those Nazis as well. Good job. Like just like the hyperization of like these killer heroes kind of. All while everyone's having like that fun Adam West jovialness to them. And like Town City, the Tales from Town City, like like the fierce pets. It's like a hyperization of like poaching's bad. Everyone knows that, but it not. I wouldn't say like that's the level of punishment that should be had. Like viciously slaughtering poachers, but it's like a hyperization. It's a hyperization of like punishment should be there. Like with all these, it's ultimately like you can take things here and there with it, like some form of deepness if you want. It ultimately is just hyperized in these books. So there is that, but also if someone just wants a fun read, these are also fun reads.
And they are, man, 100%. And to all the listeners, definitely go check it out. When's your Kickstarter in? Isn't it? It's coming up in a few weeks, right?
October 5th. Yeah, October 5th is when it ends. And so it's only available through the Kickstarter. Like I don't have an online shop or anything like that. If people want to get these digitally or physically, as well as T-shirts, like we've got a Fierce Pets T-shirt that I think looks really good. If people want to get these, it's only available through the Kickstarter. So limited time, basically.
I think I might have asked you this the last time we talked, but I can't remember. Are you ever gonna like? I know you're pushing towards more of being in a shop, but is that where your like end goal is? Like you want to start producing it into a shop to where? I guess what I'm trying to say is like, is there going to be a point where like it's not just going to be on Kickstarter? I guess. Like
with these 3 titles specifically, it'll likely stick with Kickstarter. It ultimately comes down to Diamond Distribution. Like that's the distributing house that like distributes all these big comics to the comic shops and stuff. If I'm able to like get in with them, then that'll be good in spreading that. There's other series that I have been writing, have been making that aren't Gallows Man, Dismay Avenue, or Tales from Town City that I've been making that are going to be much bigger or longer than these. Because Gallows Man, 4-issue miniseries. Tales from Town City, it's going to be at least 3, if not 4 issues. Dismay Avenue, it's an anthology, so anyone can pick up any issue and enjoy it, basically.
Right, yeah.
With those, they can stay on Kickstarter, and that's fine. But for there's stories and series I'm writing that like are continuous and they're like 6 issues, 12 issues, or more than 12 issues. Those I want to go through a different publisher to make those. Like basically, a pretty much someone that can just help have it out, like have a book out every month or every other month, basically in terms of distribution.
Yeah, that'd be good. And it gives, because me, I know my dad is too. We're like really into like independent stuff, whether it's comic books, films, stuff like that. So like, with the cons and stuff, like that's where we go to. We like to go to those booths, and check out.
That's what I was gonna say. When I go to Comic Cons, I love the independent stuff, and I try to check out as much as I can because you just don't know what you're missing out there. There's so much out there. That's what I go for is just seeing what's new, what's coming up, what's going on.
Yeah,
because they're the future.
Yeah, literally.
Also,
you are the future.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. But talking about like other independents, whether it's comics or filmmaking or whatever, there's independents that I've seen that most of the time when I'm at a convention with a table, if I'm walking around and I'm buying anything, it's from other independents, whether it's comic creators or filmmakers, whatever. But also like Kickstarter, like I back Kickstarters. I don't just run Kickstarters. I also like am a fan and are buying these books.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And like you had said, like there's stuff that's like the future or ahead of its time, kind of. I'll give one example. There was a comic that came out a few years ago called Slowpokes. And the artist for it, Juan Romero, he's actually the artist of the 2 main stories in Tales from Town City. I was a fan of him from Slowpokes. That's how I eventually reached out to him Tales from Town City. But Slowpokes is about these sloths that are in a laboratory and basically being pumped with this stuff. And it's like, what if they were fast? Like, what if sloths were fast? And they are like these killer, vicious animals, basically. They slaughter the laboratory. They kill a bunch of people at an amusement park because they're super fast. So it's killer sloths. It's called Slowpokes. I mentioned that because recently, like less than a month ago, you had Slaughterhouse come out. The big sloth horror indie movie. I'm not saying it did take in. It ultimately probably was a coincidental thing, but a few years ago with Slowpokes, you had killer B movie sloth in comics. A few years later, you got Slaughterhouse, killer sloth B horror movie.
Yeah,
it's one of those things where some of these independent stuff are like kind of ahead of its time in a way.
Yeah, 100%. Another question I had for you was, when you have your artists draw your stuff, do you give them any ideas, or how do they just kind of come up with something, or do you tell them kind of how you want it?
So ultimately what I would do is before I got into comic writing, shortly after high school, I was huge into writing screenplays. And then eventually I wanted to write comics. What I started doing and what I do to this day is I will write a whole screenplay of whatever story it is, whatever comic it is. I'll write it as a screenplay. Then over half the battle is done there, 2/3 of the battle's done. From there, I will then break up the screenplay by pages and panels. I'll be like, okay, this is a page, and I'll edit it. I'll edit some of the action lines, some of the words, the dialogue and stuff.
Right.
I'll be like, this is a panel, or this is a page, and then this is a panel, this is a panel, this is a panel. So there's description within the pages and the specific panels that are there. But when it comes to panel layout, how the panel should look and stuff, that ultimately comes down to the artist, because artists know best of what a page should look like when it comes to panel layout. Because as a writer, you can try to do that stuff, but these guys are professionals in that field.
Yeah.
I love art. I'm an admirer of art.
Mhm.
I have a ton of original comic art. I collect comic art. I go to art museums, all that stuff. I suck at actually doing the art, though, drawing the art
Yeah.
and stuff. And I recognize that. So whenever it comes to that page layout, I let them do it how they see it on that script and how they see it when drawing. So there's direction there through the writing of like what the pages and panels should look like. But sometimes there's stuff that like little details that I didn't put in the script that are added to the art where I'm like, genius, like such a
Right,
small
yeah.
touch, but genius.
Mhm.
I'll first mention Dismay Avenue before I get to Tales from Town City. Dismay Avenue, issue 1, that's like the movie theater horror comic. The first page of that, it's like 3 or 4 panels, and it shows the theater in the distance, and it shows like a rat kind of like scurrying across the parking lot. In those panels, you see as the rat's scurrying in the distance, the theater like marquee, like the neon letters, it flickers to a different letter with each panel. That wasn't my idea.
Yeah.
Jade Sky did that, and I was like, that's such a genius idea.
Yeah,
Because
that's
my
awesome.
original thing was like have one of the letters flickering, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, she did like individual ones. I was like, that's so genius. As well as with Tales from Town City, in Fierce Pets, this is a tiny thing that I don't think most people will see. There's that page where Hangmutt and the cat are talking back and forth, where it's just bark, 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 meow, meow, meow.
Yeah.
It's that page at the very bottom whenever Hangmutt is running off and he's like, bark, bark, bark. If you look to the left of that panel, the cat who's in like the hologram, she's in like her chair, she's like licking herself like a cat would. Like she's like licking her butt or whatever.
Right, you're right.
She's got her leg up, licking herself. Not even my idea. That's something Juan threw in. I was like, that's such a genius thing. But
Right.
like,
That is
instead
awesome.
of her just sitting there as Hangmutt's running away, like he's running away and she's just like licking herself. I was like, it's so smart. So there's little things like that the artists come up with where it's like amazing.
Yeah, that is really cool. I never knew how that like worked necessarily. You know, if I'm sure it's different circumstances and stuff, but I never knew if like the writer gave most of what they would want the panels to look like, or if they. I'm assuming there probably is some writers that are like that, but it's probably more towards.
I was about to say that's ultimately what like compared to screenplays, like screenwriting, there's a specific format for screenwriting when it comes to making a movie or TV show. Specific format you got to follow. Comics, it's different. There's not entirely a specific format because you have people like there's a famous comic writer. He wrote Watchmen. He wrote V for Vendetta. Alan Moore. You have Alan Moore, who, if you look at any of his scripts, they are the most insanely detailed comic scripts ever, to where I feel kind of bad for the artist because there's like there's no freedom or leeway for the artist, and they have to get everything right. Like Alan Moore in his scripts is describing everything in the panel, a panel that's like maybe that big, everything that's in that panel, as well as like there's a, because he's got like a deep like British voice, like there's in the background, there's a coffee table, and on that coffee table, there's this book, this specific book with this title. There's a coffee mug just a little bit to the right. The most insane details that is no crazy. One pays attention or cares about, but Alan Moore cares about. So you have that level of comic writing. Then on the other spectrum, not saying it's entirely bad, on the other spectrum, you have someone like Dan Slott, who has written, he wrote like Spider-Man for over 10 years. Dan Slott, at least in more recent years, it's what you would call the Marvel way of writing, where he would basically write the story, but it's a very rough idea of the story. It's not really entirely like the panels are broken up. It's almost like, here's the story. And then there'll usually be another writer with him who will then break up the panels, and that writer will add dialogue. So you have someone like Dan Slott, where it's the Marvel way, where it's not detailed at all, not really much other than a plot. Then you got Alan Moore, where it's what's on the coffee table,
real
30 feet
extreme
behind the
and stuff.
character. Yeah.
Right.
There's comic scripts are wild when you
crazy.
go through all of them.
But it's probably how I would feel. I mean, if I was a writer, I would be really interested to see how the artist would interpret my writing.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so I would find that fascinating. That's
the thing is I don't go to Alan Moore level detail, but I also don't have like
right
where an artist is basically coming up with the story themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Like with Dan Slott and with some Marvel people.
Yeah.
But I have enough there. Like ultimately, I do love like the artists like kind of having a little bit of freedom with what is written there, and not having like all these strict stipulations and stuff. Because sometimes I might have like an action or a description there that the artist, like you said, their interpretation, they change it up a little bit because they see the art, they're doing the art. Maybe they're like, that doesn't really work. I'll change it up to actually this type of outfit. It's like, that actually works better. Like that works it. So it's one of those things where most of the time, sometimes there's stuff where it does need to stay strictly to description or script.
Right.
But most of the time, if they change a little thing up, it's like, dude, that looks amazing. That's so much. Your interpretation of it is so much better than what was in my head.
Yeah. That'd be like an awesome feeling to feel.
Yeah.
So I gotta ask you, dude. I know we talked a little bit about horror stuff last time. Have you watched any like new anything? I don't know, Evil Dead-y or Terrifier 2?
I'd say so. I haven't watched Terrifier 2 yet. I do want to watch Terrifier 2 eventually. I saw the first Terrifier sometime in the past like 7 or 8 months. It was decent. As an indie horror movie, it was decent. Ultimately, I like Art the Clown. I love for the budget the special effects. Specifically the cutting down the middle scene.
Yeah.
It's like when you look at that budget, it's like, dang, they did very good at budgeting this. I would expect that to cost a lot more. Just that scene alone.
Yeah.
So overall, when you look at it as an indie film and like creation of a nice iconic horror character as well as great special effects, it's great. Plot so, but just a fun horror film.
Yeah.
In terms of recent horror that I've really liked, this year, there's 2 that I really like. The most recent one was was an A24 one. It was like a hand. Talk to Me is what it's called.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Yeah,
really
I don't think I've
good.
Seen it. It's
really good. It's a. When I say this is where people might check out because there's been so many of these. It's a possession movie. There's so many of those nowadays, with The Nun and all that crap. But like, this is actually really good. It's basically this like mummified hand that like people take to parties basically, and like it's almost like a party game or a party thing where like people are like, oh, you got to go check this out basically at this person's party. You'll go and you'll sit down and it's this mummified hand that has all this like weird writing on it, and it's like a pale white mummified hand, and you like basically clasp the hand and you say, talk to me. And when you do that, you then see a ghost or a spirit in front of you, like a dead person, and you're like talking with them. And then if you say, I let you in, that spirit then like possesses you. And all these people, they're watching, they're like, oh, like, this is crazy, because like the person's possessed and they're talking in a different voice and all this. And like but the thing is, you can't do it for more than 90 seconds. Like usually, sorry, there's a motorcycle
You're
outside.
good.
There's a like you can only do it for 90 seconds, and usually the party people that bring the hand of it, okay, like let's get them to stop. They'll take your hand off of the other hand, because if it goes beyond 90 seconds, there's a possibility of like it staying within you and that sort of stuff, and that kind of pulls the plot forward there. But it's like a really interesting idea to where there's even like a scene where like they're almost treating this hand and this like possession type thing as like a drug, like an
That's what I was gonna
addicting
say. It kind
thing.
of seems like
Yeah.
it was
It
like
ultimately is that. It's like this like thrill and this rush that they get of like this being like possessing, and it's always a different ghost. It's always a different spirit or whatever possessing someone, and it's just really fascinating. Like
I have to
seeing
check.
like
It sounds like I might have seen the trailer for that. It sounds kind of
the
somewhat familiar.
trailer.
I know I
think
didn't
The
see
trailer
it. But,
looked so. The trailer looked so when I saw it. Ultimately, I
Yeah.
saw it because like a buddy of mine had saw it. He was like, "It's really good. Forget the trailer. Like it's really good." So
yeah,
I
that's
went
usually
and
what
saw
gets
it.
you into
Yeah.
when one of your buddies is like, dude, I'm telling you, you got to watch this
Exactly.
shit, and then the next thing you know,
And
it's like one of the greatest movies.
Mhm.
I've
to
been there
me,
before.
of the horror movies that have come out this year, and we still got Halloween time. There's no
Mhm.
more
Oh,
month of
yeah.
horror.
Yeah.
Of the horror movies that have come out this year, it's my favorite horror movie of the year. Talk to me. And then there was another one that like I guess you could kind of say is horror. It leans more in sci-fi, but I guess it is horror. Infinity Pool.
Yeah,
Like
I've seen that one. Yeah,
Infinity Pool was like just
dude,
wild.
I
It
really
had me
love like
thinking like crazy.
yeah, I really like the idea of it. I think that they ended up like I didn't really like the ending of it. Like they could have done a little bit more
Same.
and stuff, but the idea behind it was like perfect. It's like it was new. It was like fresh. It's not
Yeah.
something that it's not like a typical movie that everybody has the same,
Yeah.
four
It's
people out in
these
the woods that get killed or something. It's like a whole different.
it's this like clone thing that this other country does. It's
Mhm.
basically like if you get in trouble in this country, like and you're rich, if you have money, you can like pay for them to make a clone of yourself, and
Yeah.
they will kill the clone. Like they'll execute the clone because their
And you
policy is
like watch
execution and
yourself.
stuff. And you watch yourself get killed.
Yeah,
And
which
it's
is
like a
pretty like
beat for
Wow.
beat.
yeah.
Mhm.
It's a beat for beat clone of yourself. And they even talk about it some in the movie. And I like that they don't dive deep into it. There's even conversations in the movie where it's like, what if like you're the clone? What if like the real
Mhm.
self died and stuff? But it's like party talk. They're like drinking
Yeah.
and just having fun and stuff.
And there was a
It's
couple points
interesting.
where like one guy, he was like laughing at himself getting
Yeah.
killed or
Yeah,
like
'cause
smiling at it. Like,
Yeah.
and then which made you kind of think like, is he the clone or like what's
Well,
like it was
what was interesting is like at the beginning, whenever like the first time that couple sees like their clones die, they're like surprised, scared,
Mhm.
all that stuff. But then you see the main character, he's hanging out with these other rich people. They constantly are getting into trouble, and as it goes on, they're just like eating popcorn basically at their execution of their clone, like just
Yeah.
watching it, because these people that he's hanging out with have probably done this hundreds of times. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't matter to them. There's no such thing as a consequence to where they're on this island and doing whatever the heck they want.
Mhm.
Kind of like hearkening to like the rich get away with almost
Yeah.
anything, that sort
Yeah.
of thing. I think it does a better message in terms of not saying like eat the rich or anything like that. I think it does better than like something like The Menu. The Menu was good. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
The
I
Menu
never
was
watched
good.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen the menu.
No,
The
Did we
Menu
watch
was
it?
pretty
Yeah.
good.
I know
I
you
think-
watched it, but I'm
yeah.
not sure.
I think you did though.
But you did say it was pretty good, I think. Didn't
Oh
you?
yeah, I liked
Yeah,
it.
it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And I like both of them in terms of like that type of messaging though. I think Infinity Pool does it a lot better.
Yeah. I really enjoyed like I love when a movie comes out and it's not the same like plot, it's like
Yes.
something different. And that was
Yeah.
very like Infinity Pool was completely like something you never seen. And it was like
wild.
yeah, it was trippy as hell. Like
Yeah.
just to imagine like watching a complete clone of yourself like getting murdered,
And part of why it was so crazy and wild and trippy is it so you had David Cronenberg, the guy who did like Videodrome and like all these like wild movies in the 80s and 90s and stuff. His son Brandon Cronenberg, he's the guy that did Infinity Pool. So David
okay.
Cronenberg just passed on like the weird, crazy sci-fi stuff to his son, basically.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Yeah.
apple doesn't fall too far from the tree.
No, not at all. It feels like a David Cronenberg movie.
Nah, we watched Terrifier 2 and we both loved it. We both are pretty much like the same when it comes to like the plot. To us, it can, it doesn't have to be that great as long as it's brutal as hell. That's kind of like our I mean, don't get me wrong, if the story's great too, then that's awesome, but
with something like Terrifier, like you're there for like the crazy kills, inventive kills, because
now, and they are
from that like $20,000-$30,000 budget, they now have like hundreds of thousands of dollars,
right?
And that's why
get even crazier with it.
And that's what
Art the Clown himself is just like a great like horror icon now.
It's like something new. It's not the same like Jason and Freddy and Michael. It's
exactly
something kind of new, and the kills are very unique. I mean,
even the second one, I think you're talking about doing something on a low budget. It was even done on a low budget and just like just superseded the
and Evil Dead Rise. Have you seen that one?
I saw it. I'm iffy on it. I know a lot of people did like it. For me, I don't know. It feels like I've seen it. I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
I liked it.
Issue with it.
I could see my only issue with it was like the plot of it was kind of like lame. Like there wasn't really like a good story necessarily. I mean, they could add on to it. They kind of left it at a point where they could. But as far as, like I said, like the gore and that's what makes me happy. I'm very much into like I love B movies. So like when a movie, like a newer movie, reminds me kind of like with that kind of slaughter of like a B movie where it's just kind of like that's the kind of thing I like. But you liked it too, right?
I did. I enjoyed it.
I like the whole ending with the wood chipper and all that, like going
over the top. Dude.
Like literally going into like Evil 2 and Army of Darkness type
over the top stuff. But other than that, I don't think I watch a lot of old stuff. I mean, I don't watch a lot of new things. What was that one movie that you got just like yesterday?
It's called Dr. Tar's Torture Dungeon.
Have you ever seen that?
I don't think
it's like 1973. This is a really trippy film. I love. I mean, I grew up in that kind of era. I mean, when you're talking about Adam West and everything, I grew up watching that. And it's kind of for me. It makes me feel good when younger people are into that, that appreciate stuff back then and everything, because I mean, if it wasn't for the stuff back then, you wouldn't be listening, you wouldn't have watching it or reading it or seeing it now, it's just, it all comes together.
Some of the stuff that comes out now is almost like reactionary to the stuff back then, specifically like talking about Batman. You had the Adam West Batman, and that show is great. It's hilarious,
dude. I have the complete series.
I have it too. Yeah, we all have the
series. It's ultimately kind of ahead of its time, because it was like, yes, kids could watch it, but like it was funny.
Adults were watching it too.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I think it would have been bigger now compared to the 60s, and it was big in the 60s.
Yeah,
right.
But it was cut short too.
Oh yeah. It should have been extended.
Yeah.
You have that, and basically in the 70s and 80s, you had some people that's like, like this is what Batman is. This is what I think of Batman. He's silly. He's dressed in like cheap costume. He's
Yeah.
doing the
Yeah,
dances and stuff.
doing the bat
You
dance.
had exactly. You had people reacting to that to where you had a complete tonal shift where it's like, no, Batman has to be dark and serious. That's how you got Tim Burton's Batman.
Right.
It's because of Adam West Batman.
Exactly.
You got Tim Burton's Batman.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we both. I think you got this whole complete series.
Oh
too.
yeah, I do that.
Yeah, I watch a lot of old. I mean, I've been watching the old OG Star Trek. I don't know if you're into Star Trek or not, but dude, I
I
watched that.
haven't watched OG. I've watched
Yeah.
a decent bit of Next Generation. Eventually,
Oh
Yeah.
I'll get into
See,
that.
I'm like the opposite. I've watched more of the OG series, and I'm not as I like the Next Generation, but I haven't like put enough time into it to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm a big nerd when it comes to to that stuff.
Yeah.
Between that and Star Wars is another love of mine.
I mean, there's a
but-
lot of stuff that like because you're talking about like watching older stuff. There's so much stuff that like has held up over time.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
so
yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Like because of one of this isn't an ad for Dismay Avenue. It just comes to my head. One of the biggest inspirations of that is the Twilight Zone. Like I love
Yeah.
the Twilight Zone. Like
Mhm.
Rod Serling's The Twilight Zone. Now,
Yep.
because I think it was 1959 when it came out, so we're looking at like what is that?
Mhm.
Over 60 years or 60 years old. But those episodes hold
Yeah.
up so well. Like I revisit episodes of the Twilight Zone like every year. And,
Right.
and it's black and white, and a lot
Yeah,
of people
yeah.
don't like black and white
But-
nowadays, but it works so well.
But
Yeah.
the stories were so great,
Yeah.
just it with the twists and everything else in there is just we were talking about Star Trek. It's about the writing and everything.
Exactly.
Gene
'Cause, yeah.
Roddenberry, it's the writing,
Yeah.
Pointing to the Twilight Zone, there's some episodes where whether it's aliens or whatever it may be,
Mhm.
not the best costuming.
No.
Because it's TV budget at the time.
Yeah.
They had a low
Right.
budget, not the best costuming, but like you
Yeah.
said, the story is so good, like
Yeah.
you don't even notice or care about that.
Yeah,
'Cause it's
yeah,
like,
you don't.
Right.
I'm in
You
for the
don't.
story.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
where being a writer, like a good writer, is very important. And like when it comes to a lot of, with film, not just like comics or books or anything, like all
Yeah.
kinds of things.
Yeah, writers
yeah.
can make or break a
Yeah.
movie, TV series,
yeah.
or whatever. Yeah.
And that's awesome that
Yeah.
do you ever? Here's I guess a question that just popped in my head. Like, would you ever think about writing for like a movie? Like making some type of movie.
Yeah, I would love to, because ultimately, like, before I got into like wanting to write comics, because I still want to write comics. I want to write comics till I die, basically,
Right.
until my brain doesn't let me, pretty much. Yeah, like I was writing movies. Like The Gallows Man started out as a screenplay, like a feature length
Oh,
screenplay.
okay, yeah.
So
yeah.
like if something like that became a movie, or it doesn't have to be any of my comic stuff, like yeah, there's screenplays that I got that like yeah, I'd love to make movies.
That's awesome. I'm actually I'm just now got accepted to go to college for film production and stuff like that.
Nice.
So
Congrats, man. That's
so I'll
awesome.
hit you up in a few years and
Yeah.
we'll
That'd be
collab
awesome.
on some stuff,
That's awesome to see. Yeah, I love seeing like those steps that people like. It shows that they're committed, like taking those steps. Because like a buddy of mine who like goes to conventions with me and helps me out tremendously. Like he's the guy that I'll bounce stuff off of when it comes to the comic. Like I'll show him the same page, but there's something minor different with it. It's like which looks better. He's the guy I bounce stuff off of like that.
Right.
He either I guess like 6 or 7 months ago started going to college for creative writing. Like,
Okay.
like he started doing that. He's like serious about it because he wants to make comics. He also wants to write like TV and stuff. So I love seeing like those steps. Like it shows the dedication and someone wanting to like just get into it and learn learn about it as well.
Yeah, that's what I really want to. I mean, I love doing this. I love the podcast, just talking about movies and comics and stuff like that. I think it would be great to be able to write my own movie or film it, direct it, produce it, anything. You know, like there's so many options that I could have throughout this, and I'm kind of really pushing forward to that. And we'll just see what happens, you know.
That's awesome,
and
man.
and I'm sure we'll stay in touch. You know, the more books, if you want to hop on here, each time that you come out with a book, man, we'd be happy to have you on here. I love talking to you, and was there anything? I'm trying to think of. Yeah, man, I think that's pretty much wraps it up, man. Thanks for coming on, dude. Like, seriously. It's cool that we've been in touch, even though it was like 9 months ago, last time we talked and stuff.
Next year, I think it'll be shorter intervals because I'm going to have 2 or 3 books out next year. So
yeah, that'd be awesome, man. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we can come on anytime. We finally got video now, so like you're our first guest on video.
Yeah,
so
so within the past 2 weeks is when I found out about Riverside.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't know anything about Riverside. Me and my buddy, I would say used to do a podcast. We're still trying to, but just haven't found the time with editing and various stuff.
Right.
But we were using like Anchor, and like Anchor was good. But now Anchor is just strictly Spotify, which I also just learned about recently. And I just found out about Riverside, like within the past 2 weeks. And it's like, this seems pretty good.
I'm new to it too. Like within probably a couple weeks, also. Yeah. Because I was using Anchor also. Like when we last talked 9 months ago, that was on Anchor. Yeah. And it's just Spotify, so I had to use a separate thing for like my videos, or I guess you can't even call them videos, but to put on YouTube and stuff, because you couldn't put it on YouTube from Anchor.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
But yeah, so hopefully this works out well, and it seems to be working well, and everything. So, but yeah, man,
it was nice meeting you, and
nice to meet
everything.
You
I enjoyed that book. I need to read the Gallows Man.
Yeah, Gallows Man.
Yeah, I gotta read that one too.
Thank you. Yeah, if you are looking for that Adam West fix, I think it kind of goes there.
We love the hokey shit, so, like that kind of humor, you know.
Yeah. That's the thing is I love comics nowadays. Like comics are amazing nowadays, and there's a lot of great, deep, philosophical, serious comics out there. Like Tom King, he's one of my favorite comic writers.
Mm-hmm.
He writes amazing stuff all the time. But sometimes I need a little break from that stuff. Sometimes I need a break, like Tom King specifically. Sometimes I need a break from crying reading how bad war is, because that's a huge thing you see in his book.
Yeah,
like sometimes you just need like a fun time, like almost like escapism, or just relaxing time, fun read, funny read. So that's what I like to do with Gallows Man and Tales from Town City.
That's awesome, man. Anything else you want to say, man?
Just one more thing I say all the time, all metalheads out there, keep fucking supporting metal.
Yep. Thanks for coming on, man. Get hip or rock.
Thank you.
Thanks.
See you later, buddy.
Take care.